Hello and welcome to Colassa Church YouTube channel. Today we are continuing with our conversations with our parish priest here in the parish, Father John, and specifically today we will be talking about marriage. So let's get straight into it. Father John, in the nature of marriage, how does the church define marriage as a sacrament, and why is it considered um, why is it considered a vocation as well as a social contract?
That's a very good question, Martin. It's really a very good question. Remember that the church sees it more as what they call a covenant. So a contract is something that may not last forever. I mean, I could make a contract with you. We could have a contract, but then if I don't keep my side of it, you're always free to say, look, you're not keeping your side of it. That's John. And the contract is gone now. But a covenant is a different thing. It's a more permanent thing. So the church teaches that marriage, a real marriage, is indissoluble, and it's a similar thing to the relationship between Christ and His church, the head and the body, if you like. So the whole idea the church wants to get across is the permanence of marriage. Marriage is a permanent thing, and then vocation, yes, exactly, it is a vocation. We believe God calls people to be married and to be faithful to a partner. And also, built into that is the whole thing of children and the vocation of motherhood and fatherhood. So it's a much bigger thing than just a contract between two people, really. So that's how the church sees it as a sacrament. A sacrament, a sign of God's love for us through the love that the people have for each other. And through that love, they give birth to children. Children are brought about, and they should be cherished and loved then as well. So marriage is a very big deal, really, and it's a permanent thing. It's indissoluble, actually. You can't get rid of it. You can't, like a contract. If people don't keep their side of it, the contract is over and done with. But a covenant is a much deeper, more permanent thing, and that's why it's a very rich concept. And I could go on forever, but just to give you that answer, anyway, Mark.
Right. So, what are the essential elements that make a marriage valid
Okay, good
in the
question.
eyes of the church?
A good question would be consent. In other words, the couple have to give their consent on the day that they're getting married. I take you as my husband, I take you as my wife. I consent, I agree to having you as my husband, having you as my wife. And that consent is given publicly in a public ceremony with two witnesses who can say afterwards that they were there and that it happened. And then the minister, the priest, or somebody standing in for the priest. And then what really seals it then is the marriage is consummated. So when the couple have sex after that, the marriage is consummated then, and it's a sacrament then. So long as the people who have contracted the marriage are both baptized, it's a sacrament. So that's the thing that makes it valid. It's the consent and the consummation, the witnesses, and that they follow the established words that are said and so on, canonical form as they call it. And of course, obviously, they have to be free to marry, which is a big issue. Are people free to marry? If they're married already, and we can talk about that later on. But that's the essential elements anyway
Okay.
of a valid marriage. Yeah.
By the way, if a couple were to get married in a civil ceremony,
Yes.
can they get married in the church at a later date?
Yes, of course. And I've actually done a number of those weddings. People have come to me who, when they got married in the civil ceremony, they weren't going to church or anything, no interest whatsoever in the church. And then the two people became good Catholics. They kind of went back to their faith and they said, we want to be married in the church. And we researched it and discovered, yes, of course, just the same conditions are laid down that they need to be free to marry. In other words, that they're not married to someone else beforehand or whatever. And all the paperwork that you do for any person getting married, you just do it again. You fill up a form to ask them a number of questions, which you need to find out is there any special case involved, is there any special circumstances. But obviously, people who are married in a civil ceremony can be married in the church, provided that they're free to marry and that they are entitled to have the sacrament and so on. Absolutely. And I've done a number of those actually. You'd be surprised how many people want that after they're married in a civil ceremony. You'd actually be quite surprised when they get older and they say, no, I believe in God now, I practice my faith, I want to be married in the church. And it's not that hard to. And actually, you don't need a big, just to add on to that, you don't need a big wedding again where you invite all the guests and the bride dressed up in the white dress and the groom. You don't need all that paraphernalia. All you need for a wedding is, for a marriage is, the couple, the two witnesses, and the priest. Nobody else needs to be present. And in fact, some couples do it and they keep it quiet. They don't make a big deal about it. So, but I've done them. I've done loads of them actually.
Righto. So, if a couple does come to you, Father John, and informs you that they want to be married, what can they expect in terms of preparation and the logistics?
Well, there's a lot of paperwork. The church conducts what they call an inquiry, basically a whole lot of questions. I mean, the first thing I would ask a couple straight away would be, are you related to each other? Because if you are, you need to send all the paperwork to the bishop, who gives what's called a dispensation. Because if people are related closely to each other, the bishop will say, well, get me a family tree. Make out a family tree. How close are you related? They're actually first cousins. They're actually second cousins. So, and if the bishop is concerned, he will get a geneticist who is very well up on all these things about genealogy to help him make a decision whether he should allow the wedding to happen. Then also, people may not always be Catholic. A Catholic woman from here might be marrying a Protestant man or a Presbyterian or whatever. Again, you need a dispensation from the bishop to allow that person to marry a non-Catholic. And now this never happens in Ireland, but somebody who is too young and they're not even 18, if they wanted to marry, they would need permission from the parents, and it's sent to the bishop as well to see whether a dispensation be given, because people feel it's too young at that stage. So, and there's all kinds of other things as well. I mean, if somebody is married already and they come to me and they say, well, I was married already and now I want to marry this other woman. If they're married already, you need to see, is there an annulment? Is there a process of saying that wedding never took place? There's all kinds of church law about that. So it's not simple. It just depends on the circumstances of the couple that arrive with the priest. And then there's loads of paperwork, baptismal certs, confirmation certs, loads of questions asked, and you're asked, do you really wish to give your full consent, and are you free, that there's no pressure on you to be married from your parents or the boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. So there's lots of paperwork that has to be done, really, too. And that's because the church is really concerned that these people there's no impediment, as it's called, that there's nothing stopping them from actually getting married in the church. And once the church is satisfied there's nothing stopping them at all, then they're what we call free to marry. Once they're free to marry, we allow them to get married, But there's quite a bit of paperwork.
But take the most straightforward of cases with a couple.
Okay.
What would be the basic paperwork would they require? Would they need baptismal certificate?
Oh yeah, if they were baptized.
In all cases.
In all cases, yeah, because remember that anybody who goes to receive any other sacrament like First Communion, First Confession, Confirmation, marriage, whatever, you see, the priest and the church wants to be satisfied that they are already baptized, because baptism is a gateway to all the other sacraments. So if someone comes to me and their child is in school and they want the child to make their first confession, I have to establish whether that child is baptized or not. I have to ask them straight up, was your child baptized? If they weren't, they can't have first communion, they can't have confession, they can't have confirmation without that. And they can't get married either. Now they can, I correct myself there, if one of the parties, if one of the people getting married is baptized, okay?
Yes.
And the other one isn't, that's possible.
Right.
Yeah, and then the bishop gives a dispensation to the person who wasn't baptized, and that's done through the bishop. And then that's possible, But one of them, at least one, has to be baptized.
Okay.
And then it's not a sacramental marriage really until the second person, if they do get baptized. If they do get baptized, it's a sacramental marriage then, because two of them were baptized. There's all kinds of terminology. There's all kinds of. It's very interesting, but it's actually quite complex, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a story
yeah,
you will have heard of the great British heavyweight boxer Henry Cooper.
I've heard of Henry Cooper. Yeah.
Lovely guy, by all accounts.
Yeah,
Hell of a boxer.
yeah.
He married a Catholic woman.
Mm-hmm.
He got baptized, confirmed, and married the same day.
That can happen.
So yeah, that can
That can
happen.
happen.
That's
It
it.
does. It does. Yes.
When a couple comes to you
Okay.
and you look at them and you talk to them and so on, what are the common pitfalls
Okay. Okay.
that could present problems in the years ahead?
Yeah.
Could
Well,
you, and
yeah.
how would you
yeah.
help them avoid those pitfalls?
Well, I'll tell you, the priest nowadays gets help with that because there's what's called a pre-marriage course. So the
Right.
church even facilitates people to go to these courses where experts on marriage, who know a lot more about marriage than I do, will give a series of talks to them on about 5 different areas. One of them is about communication. So telling the couple, you know, you need to be able to communicate with each other. You need to be able to talk and listen and all that. And there are sessions on communication, which is very important. Because as we know, when there's a row going on between two people, at the very time when they should be talking it out, a lot of people decide not to talk to each other at all. That's the same all over the world. So communication is so important that when things are difficult, that's when you really need to communicate.
Yeah.
But sadly, that's when people decide not to say anything, and that's the worst of all. Then conflict, which is connected with communication, of course. Conflict will occur all the time in a marriage, and tension and conflict. So
Yeah.
communication, conflict, they often give them a talk on budgeting. Just a simple thing like saving up your money, being careful, not spending, not overspending, and planning together if you want to do something, want to buy something, planning to see have you got the money. And then also the church's teaching on marriage is explained to them as well. And then there's a little bit about the ceremony actually in the church. So it's a preparation, it's a marriage preparation course. It prepares them for the ceremony and the day, but also for afterwards as well. You know? And that's some of the pitfalls, because some people maybe don't communicate very well. And then when conflict occurs, they all walk away. I mean, that's one of the great difficulties nowadays when conflict occurs in a marriage early on after they've been married a few years. Instead of maybe a couple working their way through it, they both just decide straight away they go their separate ways. They just walk away, which is it's easy to do that in life, but it's it often doesn't solve anything, you know. So just for them to be told, look, you know, don't run away when there's a conflict. It's natural that there will be conflict and tension and struggle. But instead of running away, you know, sit down and talk it out, and, you know, work it out. And that's, you make progress then, you know, you grow as a couple. So, I mean, you know, the pitfall would be this romantic love. You know, this thing, that romantic love is, oh, everything's lovely. I mean, one of the great mistakes any person can make is that the person they meet, and they often describe that person as the love of their life and all that, but that person will not solve all your problems. That person will not. In other words, that person cannot guarantee you happiness. It's not as simple as that. And so they say, and that's the quotation I think I gave you before, you have to kind of fall in love twice. The first time it's the romantic love, everything is beautiful and everything. But next time around, when you see, especially after you actually get married, you see the other person's weaknesses, you see the other person's faults, and there's something that person does that annoys you every day or whatever it is, some small thing. Now you have to love them then. And that's a choice. That's different from the feeling of romantic love where you feel you're really fond of them. This now is a choice. You make the choice. Okay, he puts the toothpaste in the wrong place on the wash basin or whatever, but I don't mind. I still love him. Or she, when she cooks, she doesn't cook that well at times, but I'm still going to love her even though she's not a good cook. So those kind of things, and that's when you choose to love people the second time, and you choose to love their faults. It's hard to do, but I mean, we have to live with people in our family who have faults. We have to live with people in the workplace who are false. I have to live with people in the parish who are false as well. Yeah. So
I suppose your first instinct is to go down the selfish
yes,
route
yes,
and do what suits you
That's
regardless.
that's right. And that's why, to come back again to the Christian understanding of marriage, Christ died for the church and he laid down his life for the church. His love was unselfish. And so the love of a bride or the love of a man for a woman, the love of a woman for a man, should also model that. It should be unselfish. The person should sacrifice themselves for the other one. And in the society in which we're living nowadays, that's not a very popular thing, sad to say. And that's where Christianity, if people are real Christians entering marriage, real Christians and able to sacrifice themselves for others and really know what it means, probably they'll have a good marriage.
Mm-hmm. The next few minutes, Father John, what I'd like you to do is talk about what's at the very core of a marriage. Talk to us about a love that is free, faithful, fruitful, and for life.
Yeah, well, they are very big things. I mean, fruitful means that they're prepared to have children, that they're open to the possibility of having children. Whereas now, some couples might say to me, we don't want to have children when they come to me. And of course, like you see kind of almost the selfishness in that. And according to the church's teaching, if they really don't want to have children, I probably should be saying to them, look, you probably shouldn't get married because it's not fruitful. And then for life, of course, yeah, till death do you part. It should be a permanent thing. It's not just until when something goes wrong or whatever.
Right.
And free means that you are under no pressure. You're actually free to marry in every sense of the word. And what's the other word? You said free, fruitful, and for life. There's another word you used, faithful, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, well, faithful, obviously faithful is to remain, loyal almost to that person, loyalty. And as a person gets older, as women and men get older, they change. The woman mightn't be as good looking, but it's what's within. It's not the and women nowadays, they put such a focus on their appearance, which maybe is good, but you see, they're still going to get old. And the man even looking or doing his appearance very well, the thing is, you're still going to get old. And it's what's inside. It's what's inside that matters.
Yeah, I suppose you could say age is no respecter of beauty.
No. That is the truth. So, yeah.
So those, yeah.
Yeah. So look, we might leave. We could have a further discussion someday, but maybe we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
You have good questions there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. One finish of that. That's good for us.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks.
So that's it for this moment.
It is.
And thank you again, Father
You're
John.
You're welcome.
And so thanks for stopping by.
Thank
And
you.
we'll talk to you again another day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. I hope that was valuable.
We had a few more
I
there.
did